Hi everyone. Today I want to talk about the concept of stress and time in retirement. I remember when I was younger and I was working full-time, I had a million things on my to-do list. I worked full-time and I worked a corporate job that typically ran around 50 and sometimes 80 hours a week if I was traveling. I used to travel sometimes 2 weeks or 3 weeks out of a month. On top of that, I was going to university and carrying an almost full course load so that I could finish up my degree. I also had a relationship at the time. I had a big home. I had kids. I had family. I had a pet. And I was taking French classes for work. I was also training for a marathon and then running the said marathon. I look back at those days and I'm like, how did I do all of that? I remember feeling stressed, but I don't remember feeling overly stressed. I remember just thinking that this was life and I had to get through every single day. Segue to retirement, and some days I feel like if I have one appointment, I'm just so busy and it can stress me out. So I thought we could talk about this weird thing that happens to us when it comes to what we consider levels of busyness when we get into retirement. Hi, my name is Raina and this is Small Retired Life, and on my channel we talk about all things retirement, the ups and the downs, and living our life in our 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s and beyond. So if you're new, welcome here. When we're younger, we're fueled by momentum. We have this specific kind of rhythm that is fueled by all of the busyness of our day-to-day lives. And this crazy momentum somehow acts as this weird form of energy. We are actually energized by the stress. It seems like the more we do and the more we have on our plate, the more we can actually accomplish. It's kind of a strange conundrum. Then one day we retire and all of that motion stops. And the outcome is an immense amount of free time with not a lot of stress in it. It's like we go from one extreme to the other, and our body is almost in a state of shock. It's kind of like it's saying, what? What just happened? With all of that time, you would think it would get easier to actually get out and do things. But the fact is that without that energy, without that hum, we actually don't even know how to start and when to start and where to start. When we're busy, we run on adrenaline. And when we completely slow down, we don't really know what to do with that time. It's got nothing to do with laziness or not being motivated. It's just that it's like our body is in shock and it does not know what to do. Here is what is really happening. Our bodies get used to a certain level of stress hormones. That's cortisol and adrenaline. These two hormones keep us alert, they keep us sharp, and they keep us functioning day to day and allow us to deal with our daily stressors. For years and years and years, while you're managing your life as an adult, you're managing your family, your finances, and so on, your levels of adrenaline and cortisol are higher. And it is what fuels you to allow you to manage all of those daily stressors that you come in contact with. When we retire, we turn the volume down on that stress. And yes, at first it feels so good. Remember that first week of retirement, you're getting up whenever you want, you're doing whatever you want, you're slowing right down, and it feels amazing. But as time goes on, your brain is used to having these different stress hormones running through your body. And all of a sudden, it's not getting them. It's not getting that push to do things. And like anything else, it's like when you go on a diet and you start cutting down calories, at first you feel hungry and you feel sluggish and you just can't seem to do as much as you used to be able to do. And as I said, at first it doesn't bother you, but then eventually your body starts missing that amount of stress hormone running through it to spur you on to do things. I think that it's both a chemical disruption and also a psychological adjustment. Chemically, your body has changed. It's not getting the same level of stress hormone. And psychologically, you're starting to say to yourself, is this it? What do I do next? How do I get myself motivated? When we no longer have these external deadlines, most of our deadlines and that things that we do and the type of, appointments and schedules that we impose on ourselves, these things become internal. They are things that we now make our choices on, and we decide when to do and how to do them. And you would think that this would be super easy, but in actual fact, it actually becomes draining to your body because you don't have that same level of stress hormone running through your body. And so now you're having to push yourself to do these things, to make these appointments. To give you an example, you would think this is so simple. Like, I have to get my tires changed out twice a year because, winter, snow, and that type of thing. Well, I procrastinate making that appointment and just have this kind of internal dread to have to go and sit in the tire shop and wait for it to get done. Such a silly thing, so easy to do. Once I actually make the appointment and I get off my butt and I take my car in, I'm like, why was this such a big deal? And it's not like I have anything else to do, but for some reason, these little tasks become difficult because there is nothing else to focus your energy on. These are like the only thing, and so you're kind of making a bigger deal out of them. Though we may not realize it, all of this self-direction is actually quite hard on your body when you're not used to doing it. When you're so busy and someone else is running your external schedule, like your bosses, your jobs, your customers, your children, whoever, there really isn't a lot of decisions to be made because you just have to do what you have to do. But now all of a sudden, every single thing you do is a decision. It's your decision, and it's amazing how your body does protest at first in having to exercise that self-direction and that self-autonomy. I guess on the funny side is that after a few months of serious retirement, I realized how ridiculous this was. Like, I had to push myself to make a dental appointment or a doctor's appointment or call my bank because I needed to sort something out. And I actually kind of sat down and thought, why am I being like this? What is wrong with me? And I hope I'm not the only one who kind of went through this and still goes through this, because I would feel really bad if that was the case. But I don't think I am. I remember my parents when they were retired, and my sister and I would call them and we would be chatting about something, and they would be like, oh, I had to do this. I'm so busy. I just don't really have the time. And we're like, what? I mean, what do you do all day? You're retired. They didn't even have a pet or anything. It was really hard to understand. But now that I'm retired, I totally get it. It's like we have to push ourselves to do the simplest things. I think it really started to bother me after a while. I felt like I wasn't accomplishing anything, And I started to feel bad about this. I thought, there's so many things that I need to do and I should probably get done, but I wasn't finding the energy and I wasn't finding that momentum to go and do them. I did have to get to a place where I realized that I wasn't really broken, because I kind of thought maybe I'm broken, there's something broken. But it's not that you're broken, you've just come to this softer place and you need to habituate to it. You need to adapt to this new scenario. Our brains actually thrive on a little bit of chaos, because movement, momentum, and things going on around us, it is what allows our brains to work, to think, and to react. And so when we get to a place where there isn't as much of that and our brain slows down, sometimes every little thing becomes a bigger deal. The trick is that we don't need absolute chaos and we don't need full-on stress for our brains to feel that level of well-being, because they're thinking and they're reacting to something. It's finding that fine line of doing enough that we feel that our brains are working, that we're accomplishing something, without stressing ourselves to the extreme like we used to when we were younger and we were still working and caring for our families or dealing with whatever life threw at us. I believe that when we lose structure, even little things stop having a realistic context. And that's where, even little things become big things and we make them bigger in our brain, so that we get to a place where if we have a couple of appointments in a week, all of a sudden we're so busy and these things become such a big deal. And sometimes we tend to dwell on things almost to an unhealthy level. By not being busy enough, little things become big things, and they really shouldn't be big things. So it's not about going back to chaos and to stress, but to having a few daily anchors that essentially allow your brain to work and to say, hey, I've got something going on, and to get that stress hormone level up just a tiny bit, not too much, but just up in a healthy kind of way, because then that allows our body to propel itself forward. We need a certain amount of stress hormone in our body to have the energy and the desire to do things. The way I tackled this, and of course I don't recommend this to everyone, but I started my YouTube channel because with my YouTube channel, I self-imposed certain things on myself. I told myself I was going to film every week. I told myself when I was going to film, when I was going to edit, that I would put out a video every single Tuesday. And so that structured my week around this self-imposed deadline of Tuesday. I used YouTube as a way to motivate myself and to make myself feel a level of accomplishment. Now, this isn't for everyone. For some of you, it could be doing an exercise class outside of the home, or going out to a book club, or telling yourself you're going to learn a new language and you're going to spend so many hours a day doing it. Essentially what you're doing is you're self-imposing certain rules on yourself, but they're not bad rules. They're rules that make your life richer and more complex, and that allow your body to feel that little bit of adrenaline. For some of you, it could be training for a sport or playing on a team or doing some volunteer work where you have to think more and be on your feet and make decisions. These things are critical and important for our well-being, no matter what age we are and no matter how slow our life is. It's not that we have to be overly efficient anymore. We just need to stay engaged in a gentler kind of way. Engagement and activity allows us to move our body, to make our brains work, and to accomplish things. And that is healthy for us. That never ceases to be healthy. What's not healthy is doing way too much to the point where you're so stressed again that you're actually making yourself not well. You have the ability to achieve a balance, and a balance doesn't mean that you do absolutely nothing and that you have absolutely zero stress, because your body doesn't want that. And it doesn't mean that you go to the other extreme where you are constantly in a state of stress and your cortisol levels and your adrenaline is always high. That has negative effects. What you're striving for is a balance between the two. And when you're retired, you have that opportunity to create that balance, to create that new rhythm for yourself. Now, you might be wondering why all of this matters. I mean, after all, we are retired. We can do whatever we want. We can just hang around and do nothing at all if that's what we want to do. And yes, I agree. Absolutely. I mean, that's what retirement is all about. But I would also say that even though we're retired, we still have to do things. We still have appointments we need to make. We need to look after ourselves by going to the doctor, getting outside, exercising, getting some movement into our day-to-day. And the more we kind of avoid doing this, the easier the avoidance becomes and the harder it is to actually get the motivation to make decisions that will spur us out of our little tiny nest and our little safe space and get us to do the things that we need to accomplish. So I would say there's some tips and tricks that you can use. I do appointment batching or errand batching. And basically what that means is when I have an errand to do, I make sure I do 2 other things outside of it. So for example, I needed to get my tires changed. So I did that, but at the same time I did groceries, and then I went to Home Depot to get a few things that I needed. And I hate going to Home Depot. I put it off as much as possible. But I batched it all together because I was already out and about. Number 2, I make sure I get movement every day, because if I get outside and I walk or I do a little bit of exercise at home, I find that I have more energy and there's just more kind of push for me than to do other things. Movement spurs movement. So don't procrastinate on that. It's really important that you get some meaningful movement into your day almost every day if you can. It doesn't have to be anything huge like lifting weights or whatever. Just as I always say, go for a walk around the block, but get some kind of movement in, because movement actually allows you to garner more energy. Build some structure into your day. It doesn't have to be anything huge. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. Don't give yourself too much, but do things every day and schedule something in every day so that you have some kind of something to be accountable to, be it doing exercise for half an hour or journaling for a few minutes every day, or reading a book of some kind every day, or calling a friend, or even schedule things like maybe going out for a coffee a couple of times a week, or maybe playing a sport with a friend. Something where you are accountable to doing it and sticking to whatever it is that you had planned. I think that when you create these obligatory types of appointments or meetings or that type of thing. It does elevate your stress level a tiny little bit, but not in an unhealthy way. But when we have to do something, we get a little stressed out about it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because that little bit of stress hormone will actually give us that energy to act and to do. So I'm not talking about over extending yourself with appointments and overburdening yourself with things to do, but just having a few things that kind of gets that energy momentum going and puts a little bit of rhythm into your life. If you find yourself overwhelmed with doing tasks, then shrink them, make them smaller. So if you just feel overwhelmed at the thought of cleaning your house, then maybe put a timer on for 20 minutes and clean your floor, or clean a couple of cupboards, or clean one window. Shrink the task to something manageable and schedule it in over the next few days or next few weeks, so eventually that task will get done. When you accomplish things, when you get tasks finished, you will be energized, because when we do something and we complete it, we actually mostly do feel good about that, and we feel like rewarding ourselves. So get things scheduled, make them really small and achievable, get them done, and then reward yourself. Finally, throughout this process, be kind to yourself. It takes time to shift into a new paradigm, and you truly are like going into a new paradigm when you retire. It takes a while for your rhythms to get adjusted again. I guess what I'm trying to say is, don't fall into doing nothing and into just absolutely zero motivation, because that type of thing just exacerbates itself, and it can become a chronic thing, which at the end of the day will become negative to your well-being. I don't know. I would be interested to know if you find that you are more stressed out by smaller things when you're retired, or if I'm completely off base. But I have heard other people say, I don't know what's going on. I'm retired and I have more time than I ever have, yet I feel like I'm so busy and I'm not even doing half the things that I used to do. So I'm not sure that I'm the only one who feels this way. Let me know in the comment section below. And again, leave us your tips and tricks on how you deal with this type of thing. And this is all I have for this week. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next week at our regular time. Bye!